What's up YouTube and welcome back to the 16th video in the How to Get Brutally Strong series. The third one about periodization. And a little bit delayed because I thought I had recorded everything, but apparently I deleted a little bit of it. But for this one, I'm going to talk about the common misperception that people have about periodization. Because you'll hear a lot of people talk about undulating periodization and linear periodization as if they are things on their own. And what people will say, for example, when they're saying linear periodization, is something where what they will be referring to is a program where the intensity rises and volume drops constantly. So something like going from 6 reps with 70 kg, 5 with 80 kg, 4 with 90 kg, and 3 with 100. But what this simply is just what is called a loading pattern. There's no periodization about this. Remember what periodization is. What Tudor Bomber described that is. It's basically different phases that are built together to optimize, like to peak at a certain time before competition. And this has nothing to do with that. You're just going up with no direct goal. So if you were to actually have linear periodization, that alone, that would be impossible because you would have to do the same amount of sets with increasing weight or reps forever. And obviously, that is gonna be impossible because eventually you can, well, you cannot keep on adding a rep every single week. Like, that's gonna be impossible. And you cannot just do the same, like, sets and reps with more and more weight every single week. Eventually, that's going to be impossible. And then when you try to either change around the weight, go back down and build up again, you're basically undulating, because what undulation means is that you are changing the volume and intensity constantly. Or if you try and do less reps than you've done before, or you try to do a different amount of sets or something like that, you're also changing the volume. So you can never do that. You can never go back down the weight, and you can never go back down the reps. You're always gonna have to add something. If you don't add anything, you're just repeating the same workout, and it's not anything linear. You're just having a stagnation. Now, if we move on to undulating periodization, what people mean when they say undulating periodization is a program where the volume and intensity goes up and down constantly. So something like from 1 week you do 3 sets of at 85, 3 reps at 85%. Next week you do 8 reps at 70%. And the week after that you do 10 sets of 2 at 60%. And again, undulating periodization, the way people talk about it itself, is also impossible, because what you will do here is that as soon as you begin to repeat the same thing during another week, so let's say you just did this 3 sets of 85 in a week, and now you come at the 4th week and you do 3 reps with 18.5% because you want to make some progression. But now you've actually gone up from week 1 to week 2, and again when you come to week 3, you might do 3 with 90%. So what you're actually doing here is from week to week, you're actually using a linear loading pattern, or what a lot of people refer to as linear periodization. So if you were to have undulating periodization alone, it would mean that the exercise must always stay the same, because otherwise you're having conjugation. And the volume and intensity stay the same when you return to a training day. So if you have just done this in a week, 85%, 80, 70%, intensity of 60%, you have to repeat the exact same sets, the exact same reps, and the exact same weight on the bar that you had this week for the next week as well, and the next week as well, and the next week as well. As soon as you change anything, you're gonna have some kind of progression, linearity from one week to the other, which then categorizes it as not being undulating periodization alone, the way people talk about it. Conjugation. Now, before explaining the same thing with this, I'm just going to tell you what conjugate periodization means, or the way people talk about it. So it's a regular change of training stressors with the purpose of training different physical characteristics such as speed, max strength, and hypertrophy, things like that. And what really conjugate periodization is known for is changing exercises a lot. So one week you might do 3 reps with 90% in the front squat, and next week you do 3 reps with 90% in the safety bar squat, and the third week you do 3 reps with 90% in the back squat. But again, conjugation alone is basically also impossible because you can never add weight to the bar when you return to the same exercise. So as soon as you begin to add weight, you're going up to 92.5%. Then again, you're adding some kind of linearity, and also just the rotation of exercises also adds some kind of undulation, because the 1 rep max in each of these exercises are not the same. Maybe 90% here is 90 kg, here it is 100 kg, and here it is 110. So the total workload is already changing, going up and down constantly. So that is where you get the undulation. So as you can see, if you want to have a good program, you're going to have to mix everything of these things together within the whole macro cycle. And I'll show you that on the next program, that we have something within just one microcycle. We have another thing within the mesocycle, and we have another thing from macrocycle to macrocycle, things like that. If every one of you watching could quickly do me a favor, that would mean the world to me. For me to be able to continue putting out videos like this and improve the quality and time put into future videos, that requires your help. So if you can either leave a like or a comment on a video, subscribe to the channel, or share my work with a friend, that would be hugely appreciated. For now, back to the video. This is just a really simple way to show you that having either undulation, linear periodization, or conjugation alone on their own is simply not possible. So let's say that these 8 weeks here combined is a whole macro cycle, although a short one. Then we have 4 weeks, which is a mesocycle, and 1 single week is going to be a microcycle. And what you'll see that is that the first 4 weeks are front squat, and the next 4 are going to be back squat. Just that in itself is a type of conjugation where we're changing the training stressors by having different exercises. Now, then within each week, you'll see that we go from 4 sets of 6 with 70 kg, 4 sets of 5, 80 kg, 4 times 4 with 90 kg, and 4 times 3 with 100. So the weight is going up, reps are going down, so the weight is just increasing linearly, constantly, which is a type of, linear loading. So lastly, we also have from each week to week, or I mean from each mesocycle to mesocycle, we have the change exercise, which forces a change in the weight because we're stronger in the back squat. So now 406 is done by 90 kg, and then as an undulating loading, where we are not just continuing a linear loading up to 110 kg, 120 kg, but we are going back down in this new block, building up again. When we get to the 403, we're now 20 kg above. So that's this way we are constantly moving up and down in weight, and we're combining all three of these things into a program, and that's how you make an effective periodized program. For the last part of the video, here are 4 types of undulating loading macrocycles. So what is important to notice about these is that they become linear if they are repeated with more weight from macrocycle to macrocycle. So if you are doing, let's say, the step loading one is probably the most known. If you do this and then in the next cycle, this one here is up here, and this is here, this is up here, and this one is here. So basically doing the same thing, undulating within the within the macrocycle, where the weight is going up and down and such because of the changes in the weight on the bar. But then it becomes linear from macrocycle to macrocycle because you're just adding a little bit of weight and repeating the same thing. Now you could say this is also linear in a sense, which is right, but it also categorized as undulating because you're going to be changing around the intensity, the RPE, things like that, which makes it undulating because of basically the difficulty up here, and not just doing like straight jumps all the time. Now, the 4 different ones are called ascending, descending, step loading, and flat loading. So if you go over the benefits of ascending, I actually really like this one if you are doing like traditional powerlifting block periodization. You'll see a lot of people just doing a step loading where the RPE increases every single week. But I like this a lot more because you have this week in between where you don't just go from the second hardest week to the hardest week. You have a deloading week in between, not a deloading week, but an easier week that maybe gets rid of a little bit more fatigue. While this may create some fatigue before this gives you a little bit more rest and may allow you to lift more on the 4th week, which I really like. Now, the descending is something you might see after a competition, because if you do this once and repeat it, you come from the lowest workload in your macro cycle to the highest workload, right? So this means that you're getting a full recovery, and it's also what we see when we want to peak for a competition. Again, not a lot of people use this because maybe it seems counterintuitive and boring, but actually it makes a lot of sense to come from an easiest week and then peaking. But a lot of people like to build up, have the hardest week, and then go in to the easiest week and build back up instead of doing this for some reason. And I don't know why, because this actually seems a lot smarter. So benefits of this, I don't think there's really any benefits of this that these two doesn't have. Actually, I think this might be a tad worse again because you have the second hardest week before the hardest week, and it might cause a little bit of fatigue, and you're also spending more time away from heavy weights, 2 weeks, not being at an high RPE. For the last one, we have what is called flat loading. With flat loading, basically, you are having the same loading for the same workload for a longer period of time, which can be good leading into competition where we want to get used to more stress for a longer period of time. And then what you'll do is have a really easy week. So you're not going to be up having the extremely high workload, but you have an over average workload that you wouldn't usually be able to have for a really long time. So just when you're at the brink of overtraining, you have this easy deload week, which will alleviate stress and allow for supercompensation. So you can see that all of these are basically just different ways of structuring a macrocycle, either moving up in weight with an easy week in between, having a descending way where you start with the hardest week, such as when you're having a competition, um, step loading, building up again, and so on. You might also have conjugation within these. Maybe you're training 2 times a week within a single of these here, within a single training week, and you're doing maybe back squat one day, front squat the other day. Again, it also adds more undulation because your 1 rep maxes are different from in each exercise variation, which will mean the load is going to vary. So you're adding more undulation. Remember, undulation is basically just the constant change in volume and intensity. If it was to be just, let's say, linear loading, like this might seem like you would have to never change, like you can never go back in volume again, things like this, you cannot go back down and repeat this and stuff like that. Um, so I hope this gives you a good overview of like how you can structure your training, basically structure your macrocycles, things like that, and create a really good um, like block periodization, I would say, because each of these is basically a single block, and what you just do is you stack more of these together when you want to reach a new goal. So maybe you go from high reps to low reps. You're adding more and more intensity every time you're doing these and less volume instead. And you just keep on stacking these, and eventually you'll be working on speed rather than building up muscle, speed and power rather than muscle. And you're going from the really like general preparation to the specific preparation within the sport, which is what you want to really have talent in when you're going to compete. So this is all for How to Get Brutal Strong episode number 16. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe. Peace out.